output can log in into this infrastructure from your local, right? So that is the reason we should have sort of a two additional software, which is PuTTY-Gen and Pigunt, right? So the PuTTY is the common one, which we are using in order to start the SSH terminals from our Windows laptop, right? PuTTY-Gen is something what we are using to convert the key pairs, right, to generate the private keys from public keys and vice versa. And Pigunt is something what we are using to do an agent forwarding or key forwarding from say if you wanna log into to one server from another server, right, through SSH, you need the key to be persisted, right? So Pigunt is something what we are using locally to hold that private keys, so that we don't have a need to store our private keys on any AWS infrastructure out there, because storing a private key on cloud server or any server which is not directly in your control is sort of a security leak. So we are using Pigunt to do a key forwarding. So what I'm doing is, if you can see, right, I have a KubeMaster IP over here, I have a Jumpbox IP over here. If you can see the IP pattern, the Jumpbox is having a public IP, right, and all KubeMaster and Kube instance are having a private IP space, which are fall under the VPC CIDR range, which I have mentioned inside the file, this one, inside the dev tf.var. So whatever the CIDR that we have mentioned over here, 192.168.11.0/26, this is on VPC CIDR, and these are subnet CIDR. So these IPs over here are fall under the same CIDR range, right? If you want to have your own CIDR range, feel free to update the dev.tfr file and spin up your infrastructure of your own IP range specification. Now what I'm going to do is, I'm just trying to log into my Jumpbox, right? I need to pass my key. I'm doing an allow agent forwarding, and I'm passing my private key, right? I already have added my private key to the Pigunt, so that it will use that key from Pigunt to do to SSH logon from Jumpbox to a KubeMaster, right? So that is already done. So I'm just clicking on open. I get a pop-up. So this is a Ubuntu, right? So I just need to use username as an Ubuntu and password as an Ubuntu. Again, this username and password has been mentioned over here in the how to step to do with the what to do with the Pigunt and SSH key that has been given. The username and password has been given, right? So now this is something what we have done. We have logged into a Jumpbox, right? Which is having, this is a private IP of a Jumpbox. If I can show you that quickly. Jumpbox has two IPs. One is a private IP, which is of same CIDR range as we have, and another one is a public IP, which is accessible from a public. So this is the private IP address, which we can see on the screen, 192.168.11.21, right? So I hope it is clear. Then the next step is, if you can see, we need to execute something in order to configure your cluster, right? So what it says is, from the Jumpbox, SSH to Kubernetes master IP, and then execute a script call as a Kubernetes master.sh, right? And supply some input. So with the interest of time, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to straight SSH into that Kubernetes master. So I do have an IP over here. So I do SSH into that. I say yes. I only able to SSH because of key forwarding as a part of a Pigunt. Now over here I'm in home directory of my Ubuntu user, and it asked me to execute a script call as an kubemaster.sh, right? So that is what I'm doing. I'm executing a command sh kubemaster.sh. It asks me to enter the kube network CIDR range. Now it's gonna configure your Kubernetes cluster, right? So cluster should have its own CIDR, own networking style. The most popular one is Funnel that I have used over here. There are other different networking layer that can be used within a Kubernetes cluster. like remember one point over here, the CRDR range what we have used earlier, this is for your AWS space, right? And this CRDR range over here is Kubernetes internal CRDR range, which is being used by the applications that you deploy on the Kubernetes pods, right? This CRDR range is the internal Kubernetes CRDR range. It has nothing to do with your AWS CRDR range as such. So just follow the conventions and entering the same CRDR range as it has been given in the example. It asked me to enter the kube master static IP. So I do have a kube master IP over here, right? I'm just copying it and supplying it to the script. It's moving ahead. It's gonna download all the things that is required to spin up your Kubernetes master on your node. It would take a minute of time, and it will give you two important things, which is your token and CSR, right? So the token is something which is used by an identity, right, by your kube node in order to register with your kube master, right? So the kube node should have a token with him that allow a kube node or a kube slave to register with the Kubernetes master. And certificate is being used as a signing authority. So this is something what we are getting as an output of this script execution. And this script we are executing on Kubernetes master, right? Because we want to configure that node, Kubernetes master EC2 node, as a Kubernetes master. So this is the script execution has been completed, right? We have a token name over here and we have a cert name. So I'm just going to copy this two value and I'm going to put it over here just for further use. Now what I'm going to do is I'm opening another session, duplicate sessions of my putty, and again I'm there at the jump box because this is jump box IP. Now what I have to do is, if I follow my steps, now this is completed, right? We got the token name and we got the CSR, and we have executed the step number 10. Now moving forward to step number 11, where we have to log in into the kube node from that jump box and again execute some script over here, right? So that's what I'm going to do it now. So I need a kube node IP which is there in the output, right, on my git bash. I just copy that. I'm going to a kube node and doing an SSH. I type yes. Now I'm there at the kube node 1. I'm there at the home directory and I'm going to execute a script called as a kubemini.sh, which is already there as a part of my bootstrapping of that particular EC2 instance from the repository. Now it asks me to enter a Kubernetes master status IP. We do have a Kubernetes master status IP.
From where this script has been?
This script has been built by these modules, Kubernetes, this sort of an AWS module. If you go inside the EC2 module, right? So if you can see the script over here, right? Kubernetes master.sh, Kubernetes mini.sh. In order to avoid all sort of an extra work that has to be done, right? I have put all sort of a required stuff as part of module. So this is what we call as, right, this is what called as an immutable infrastructure. So you don't need to create the things out of the box every time when you create an EC2 instance. Most of the thing is already available in the EC2 instance. You just need to go and execute it.
What it is called as?
Immutable infrastructure, or
immutable.
Right, bootstrapping your EC2 instance with something called as what we also call as an user data. So I'm creating an EC2 instance with a Terraform and I'm passing some sort of an standard, right? Some sort of an things that I have to be there with my EC2 instance when it's getting provisioned. So I'm configuring my EC2 instance at the provisioning time, right? It is equivalent of you creating an AMI, right? And then spinning up an EC2 instance from that AMI, which has all the defined set of software configurations. But the reason I'm not creating AMI over here is, if you want to store an AMI on AWS, you again have to pay something to AWS, right, over the period of time, because you are storing your AMI on AWS. And with this sort of a model, you don't need to pay a single penny to AWS if you destroy your infrastructure. I will going to show you that in a moment.
Okay.
So it asks me to enter an Kubernetes master IP, which we have over here, which I am passing it straightforward. It asks me to enter the token name, which we have already got as a execution on Kubernetes master. It now asks me to enter the CSR. I pass all this required value. Now the script is doing the purpose. Now what it is doing, it's gonna install all the required thing, and I got the message saying that the node has joined the cluster, right? The node has joined the cluster, and you can check by executing kubectl get node command if it is, right? So what I'm doing is I'm back on my Kubernetes master, right? Putty sessions where we have executed that kube master command. I think it got timeout, so I need to relog in. Or what I can do is I can log in from this session itself. I'm gonna log in inside the master again with this IP. So 58, right? This is an IP of an Kubernetes master. So if I run that particular command, right, which it was asked us to do, kubectl gets node, here you can see that, right? So I have 58 as my master, right, which is ready, and we were executing those kube minions command on this kube node 1, which is also ready, right? So this particular node has been registered with the Kubernetes master, right? Now we have to repeat the same thing for our node number 2, because in this architecture we have one Kubernetes master and two Kubernetes node, right? So Kubernetes master is ready and registered to the cluster. Kubernetes node 1 is ready and registered to the cluster. We have to repeat the same thing for the Kubernetes node 1, and that is what the step number 11 is talked about. If you see over here, repeat the step for Kubernetes node 2 IP, right? So what I'm going to do is I do have a node 2 IP, right? I'm going to open another session. Again, I'm logging into my jump box because that's only the way to enter into your Kubernetes cluster. All your Kubernetes nodes are completely in private subnet. So I do log in into my Kubernetes node second, right? I'm there at my home directory. So I'm going to execute the script. If I want to show you the script, what it is doing, right? It executing some sort of a kubeadm command in between, right? With some sort of an input argument. So I'm executing that kubemini.sh. It again asks me to enter the Kubernetes master IP, which we already have. I'm passing that. It asks me to enter the token name, which we already have. It asking me to enter the CAssert, which we already have. Now it's going to do the task that we have mentioned inside the script do, and at the last it says the node has been joined the cluster. So if I go back to my cluster again, right, I'm there at again I am at the server which is 11.58, which is my Kubernetes master, right? So if I run the command again, kubectl get nodes, I can see that the second node, which is 192.168.11.59, right, it also be trying to register, but is not ready yet because it does take few seconds to register with the cluster. And now if I rerun the kubectl command again, I can see it has been registered, right? So if I run with kubectl-void, I can see that these are my Kubernetes nodes and the master. These are the IP address of it, and what sort of an OS image they are having, what sort of an kernel version they are having, and what sort of an Docker, which is an containerization platform or runtime that is having, right? Every information is available here. So with this, my Kubernetes cluster is ready. It's set up. It's hardly in less than 5 minutes of job. Now, if you can see that the role section over here, right? It does say a role of a master for our master, but the role for the slaves is still set as none. This is something which is which is yet to be improvised feature in the Kubernetes, that the role is not being assigned when we bootstrap the node by default. We have to tag the node externally. So for that purpose, I have another script which is available over here, right? Which is says kubeconfig.sh. So what this script is going to do, it's going to run the command which is kubectl label node $i, which is the nodes available as output of kubectl gets node, and set the role as kubernetes.io role is equal to worker. So this is what we have mentioned in the step number 12. If we can see, sorry, step number 13, right? So we have done with step number 12, right? And at the step number 13, it just says that we should execute this kubeconfig.sh script in order to label our node. Again, it is not a compulsory to run this script, but it is good that we should name our cluster properly as we wish. So again, the script has been labeled. If I again execute that command, which is kubectl gets node, you can see that the role has been assigned as a worker to my kube nodes, kube minions, and for master, it is still role has been master. Earlier it was none, right? So this way I brought my cluster into an ready state, right? I have my cluster, Kubernetes cluster running, which has having one as a master node, which nothing but my Kubernetes control plane, and that cluster is having two kube minions which act as my Kubernetes node, on which I can deploy my applications on pods that I'm going to create as a part of my next step, right? So until here we done with step number 13, right? Now we are there at the Kubernetes master, right? If you can see this, we are there at the Kubernetes master. Okay, let me come back to my jump box. Okay, I'm there at the jump box now, which is 11.21, my jump box private IP. Now what we have to do is we created a clusters, we have created a cluster component, but we eventually want to access that cluster from outside of a cluster node. We want to either operate that clusters from our own desktop, right, or from some third party server which acts as a common share which can be used by our most of the team members, right? So in order to do so, what we have to do is we have to copy the .kube file which contain the Kubernetes cluster API endpoint to the server from where we want to access that Kubernetes cluster, right? And why we want to access the Kubernetes cluster? So that we can operate on that cluster, so that we can deploy our app on that cluster, so that we can administrate that cluster, right? Being external to the cluster, we can do all these sort of operations if we do if we copy the .kube or the .config file to the node from where we want to access. I want to copy that to my jump box, right, which is not the part of my Kubernetes cluster, which is just a server where I can, from where I can do my operations on my Kubernetes cluster. So what I have to do is, the step has been given over here, right? scp-pr Kubernetes master IP and this command. So I'm going to execute the same. So I'm going to do scp-pr. My Kubernetes master IP is this one, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy home, Ubuntu, and .kube, right? And I'm going to copy it to my present working directory. So this dot indicate my present working directory on my working server. So what I'm doing is scp is the command to securely copy the files from remote server. So this is what the remote server, which is our Kubernetes master. This is what the remote directory which I want to copy, home Ubuntu .kube, and this dot, the last dot, represent copy this remote directory to the present working directory on this server. I'm executing the command and it's done, right? We get a permission denied for the cache because that cache is something which was there on the remote server, which is not allowed to copy. But don't worry, once we execute kubectl on this server, it will build its own cache, right? But if you can see now, I do have the .kube file over here copied, right? Then if I execute kubectl get nodes command on my jump box, this time I could see the same sort of a response as I was seeing it earlier on my Kubernetes master, right? So this is how I have my master, which is 58, node 1 which is 56, and node 2 which is 59, and I'm executing it on my jump box. I'm not at all there on my Kubernetes cluster. I'm all doing my operation from a node or from a server which is external to the Kubernetes cluster. This could be done on my local laptop, but due to bandwidth constraint, I'm doing it on a sort of a jump box, which is again external part of the Kubernetes cluster. But you can still do that on your local laptop and point that to the Kubernetes cluster as well, right? So what we're going to do is now, so far we have got the Kubernetes cluster working.